Listen to me. Everything in your life changes when you decide to put God first. I'm not talking about just saying it. I'm talking about living it, breathing it, making every decision, every action, every heartbeat flow from that divine alignment. Because when you truly put God first, you stop living from fear and you start living from faith. Most people are out there chasing success, chasing recognition, chasing validation, but they're running on empty. They're working so hard trying to make life happen on their own strength, and they wonder why they feel drained, why they feel lost, why they keep hitting the same wall. Because no matter how much you hustle, no matter how hard you push, if God isn't at the center of your life, you'll always end up feeling unfulfilled. When you put God first, you stop trying to control everything. You stop worrying about outcomes that were never yours to decide in the first place. You start trusting the process because you realize there's a purpose behind it all. You start to understand that the delay isn't denial, the detour isn't rejection, it's divine redirection. You see, when you put God first, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start saying, what is God preparing me for? Because when he's first, even your pain has purpose. Even your struggle carries meaning. The things that used to break you start to build you. I've seen people chase money, fame, relationships, power thinking. Those things would fill the void inside them. But the truth, nothing fills that space except God. You can gain the world and lose your soul. You can achieve every goal, hit every milestone, and still wake up empty. Because it's not what you achieve that defines you, it's what you believe. Putting God first means before you make that decision, you pray. Before you take that opportunity, you ask. Before you speak that word, you listen. Because when God leads, you win, no matter what the scoreboard says. When he's first, you can walk through storms with peace, through fire with strength, through valleys with confidence. You want your life to elevate? You want to feel that power, that unstoppable momentum? Start every day by surrendering. God, I give this day to you. Use me, lead me, guide me. Because that's where real power comes from. Not your plan, not your talent, not your network, but your connection to the one who created you. Putting God first doesn't mean life gets easy. It means you get anchored. It means when life shakes, you don't fall apart. Because your foundation isn't built on people or possessions, it's built on the rock. You can lose things, but you won't lose you. And here's what's incredible. When you put God first, he starts adding things you didn't even ask for. He opens doors you didn't even knock on. He gives you peace and chaos, favor and confusion, joy and sorrow. You stop chasing blessings and blessings start chasing you. So right now, make that decision. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Decide that from this moment on, God comes first. Not your comfort, not your plan, not your fear. God first in your mind. God first in your heart. God first in your business, your family, your dreams, your relationships. Because when you put him first, everything else falls into place. You'll find clarity where there was confusion, strength where there was weakness, peace where there was anxiety. You'll stop surviving and start living. Putting God first shifts you from fear to faith. It's the turning point that transforms your entire outlook on life. Most people are running on fear even when they don't realize it. They fear failure. They fear rejection. They fear not being enough, not having enough, not achieving enough. Fear drives their decisions, controls their emotions, dictates how they see the world. But when you put God first, that fear starts to lose its grip. You begin to live from a place of deep trust, knowing that you are guided, covered, and strengthened by a power greater than yourself. You stop reacting to life and start responding with faith. You begin to understand that no matter what happens, God is in control, and that brings peace that fear can't touch. When fear runs your life, everything feels uncertain. You doubt yourself, you question your worth, you hesitate to move forward. Fear whispers that you're not ready, not capable, not worthy. It keeps you trapped in patterns that rob you of peace and joy. But when you put God first, something inside you changes. You no longer live based on what you see, you live based on what you know. You know that if God brought you to it, he'll bring you through it. You know that even when the path isn't clear, he's already made a way. That's faith walking confidently into the unknown because you know who's walking beside you. Fear says, what if it doesn't work? Faith says, even if it doesn't go my way, God's way is better. Fear says, I don't have enough. Faith says God will provide. Fear says, I'm not strong enough, faith says. His strength is made perfect in my weakness. When you put God first, your mind starts to shift from limitation to abundance, from panic to peace, from doubt to expectation. You start seeing life through the lens of possibility instead of pain. Because when you're walking in faith, you're not measuring outcomes by your capacity, but by God's capacity, and his is limitless. The reason many people feel stuck is because they're letting fear lead. They make choices to avoid pain instead of pursuing purpose. They play small because fear convinces them that failure will destroy them. But putting God first means you trust his plan more than your own comfort. You step out even when you're scared because you know he's got you. You take risks, you move. In obedience, you stop waiting for certainty and start walking in confidence. You stop saying, what if I fall? And start saying, what if I fly? Putting God first doesn't mean fear disappears overnight. It means you stop letting fear make the final decision. You start letting faith lead the way. You start saying, yes, I'm afraid, but I'm moving forward anyway because I know God is with me. And that's where your strength begins to rise. Fear might knock, but faith answers the door. Fear might whisper lies, but faith declares truth. Fear might tell you that you're alone, but faith reminds you that you are never forsaken. When God is first in your life, your priorities realign. Suddenly you stop living to impress others and start living to please him. You stop worrying about how things look and start focusing on how things feel in your spirit. You stop asking, what will they think? And start asking, what does God want? That's how you start walking in purpose. Because purpose can't live in fear. Purpose thrives in faith. When you choose to put him first, you become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because you stop being afraid of what could go wrong. You start believing that whatever happens, God will use it for your good. You see, fear is always loud, always urgent, always pushing you to react. Faith is calm, steady, and sure. When you live by faith, you stop chasing and start attracting. You stop fighting for control and start flowing in peace. You don't need to manipulate outcomes because you trust that God's timing is perfect. Fear tells you that you're losing time, but faith tells you that God can restore everything in an instant. Fear tells you that the door is closed, but faith reminds you that God can open doors no man can shut. Fear tells you to quit, but faith tells you to stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Putting God first means you replace your what ifs with even ifs. Even if it doesn't happen the way I hoped, I'll trust him. Even if the answer is no, I'll praise him. Even if I don't understand it now, I'll believe it's working for my good. That's real faith. That's strength. That's freedom. Because when you live from faith, you stop being a slave to fear. You start walking with power, clarity, and confidence that no circumstance can shake. When you truly put God first, you stop relying on your own understanding. You stop overthinking every move, every possibility, every outcome. You start resting in the truth that God's got the details covered. Fear makes you restless, but faith gives you rest. Fear makes you chase answers, but faith lets you wait with peace. Fear makes you hide from challenges, but faith gives you courage to face them head on. You become bold, not because you have all the answers, but because you know who holds the answers. Faith doesn't mean you'll never have moments of doubt or worry. It means you know where to turn when those moments come. You don't let them take over your mind. You redirect them to God. You remind yourself, I don't walk by sight. I walk by faith. You start to live from your spirit, not your situation. Because when God is first, your situation doesn't define your spirit defines how you handle the situation. When fear leads, life feels heavy. Every problem feels like a mountain. Every delay feels like a defeat. But when faith leads, you start to see mountains as opportunities. You start to see delays as preparation. You start to see opposition as confirmation that something greater is on the way. Because faith isn't blind, it sees what fear can't. It sees beyond the present moment into the purpose behind it. Putting God first turns your fear into fuel. It turns obstacles into opportunities. It turns uncertainty into unwavering trust. It takes your I can't and transforms it into God can. That's what happens when you stop trying to do life alone and start doing life with him leading the way. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to know who's walking with you. When God is first, you can face anything. You can walk through darkness and still shine. You can go through storms and still stand. because faith doesn't remove the storm, it anchors you through it. And that's the power of putting God first. It doesn't just change what you believe, it changes how you live. It moves you from the prison of fear to the freedom of faith. It doesn't mean you won't face challenges, it means you'll face them differently. You'll face them knowing that the same God who brought you this far isn't about to leave you now. When God is first, every pain has a purpose. Pain is one of life's greatest teachers, but when God is not at the center, pain just feels like punishment. It feels like something you must escape, something that breaks you, something that steals your joy. But when you put God first, pain takes on a different meaning. You begin to see that pain isn't meant to destroy you, it's meant to develop you. It's part of a bigger picture that you can't see yet. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this preparing me for? That one shift changes everything. When you live with God at the forefront, you understand that every tear, every setback, every heartbreak, every disappointment has divine purpose behind it. God doesn't waste pain. He uses it to shape, stretch, and strengthen you for what's next. When you're walking through pain without God, you feel alone. You feel like no one understands, like you're carrying something too heavy to bear. You start to believe the lie that the pain is permanent. But when God is first, you realize that pain has a time limit. You realize that what feels like an ending is often the start of transformation. Pain becomes a tool. In God's hands, a chisel that shapes your character, your patience, your humility, your compassion. You begin to understand that growth rarely happens in comfort. It happens when things get uncomfortable, when you're stretched beyond your limits, when you have no choice but to rely on God's strength instead of your own. When you put God first, you no longer see pain as a curse. You see it as a calling. It calls you to lean on Him. It calls you to surrender control. It calls you to stop running and start trusting. Because when pain hits, you can do one of two things. You can run from God or you can run to Him. The moment you choose to run to Him, your pain becomes a doorway to power. You start to realize that God never wastes a wound. Every scar tells a story of survival. Every trial reveals a deeper layer of your purpose. When He's first, He turns your pain into preparation. So many people let pain harden them. They let betrayal turn them bitter, loss turn them cold, failure turn them fearful. But when God is first, pain doesn't harden you, it heals you, it humbles you, it purifies your perspective. You start to see that the things that hurt the most were often the things that led you closest to Him. Because it's in the valley that you learn who God really is. It's in the fire that you see His faithfulness. It's in the breaking that you discover your true strength. When you walk with Him first, you learn that pain doesn't mean you're being punished, it means you're being positioned. Pain has a purpose. It pushes you toward the version of yourself that can handle the blessings ahead. Sometimes God allows the pain not to hurt you, but to prepare you. He's refining you like gold, removing what doesn't belong, shaping you into who you're meant to be. When you put Him first, you realize that He's not trying to take something from you, He's trying to build something within you. You might not see it while you're in it, but later, when you look back, you'll realize the pain was necessary. The rejection made room for better connections. The loss made space for growth. The delay protected you from disaster. When God is first, pain stops being random. It becomes strategic. It becomes purposeful. You start to see that there's meaning behind every moment, even the hard ones. That broken relationship taught you how to set boundaries. That season of lack taught you gratitude. That health struggle taught you dependence. Pain becomes a lesson, not a life sentence. You begin to see that every wound carries wisdom. You stop saying, why me? And start saying, thank you for trusting me with this process. Because when God allows you to go through pain, it's because He knows what He placed inside you is greater than what's coming against you. Putting God first changes how you process pain. You no longer see it as a signal to give up, but as a sign to grow up. You stop blaming others and start asking God, what are you showing me here? That question turns pain into power. You start realizing that pain is often the birthplace of purpose. The greatest callings are often birthed out of the deepest wounds. The people who impact lives the most are the ones who've walked through something and came out with wisdom. When God is first, you let the pain teach you instead of break you. You let it push you deeper into his presence instead of deeper into despair. There's a kind of strength that only comes from walking through pain with God. It's a quiet confidence. It's not loud, it's not boastful, it's anchored. It's the strength that says, I've been through fire and I'm still standing. That strength can't be taught in comfort, it's forged in pain. And when you put God first, he uses that strength not just for you, but for others. Your story becomes someone else's survival guide. Your scars become someone else's hope. You realize that your pain wasn't just about you, it was about everyone who would be inspired by your comeback. When you live with God first, you also understand that pain doesn't last forever, but the lessons do. You begin to see the temporary nature of struggle and the eternal impact of faith. You stop giving pain power over your peace. You stop letting it define you. You see that God is always writing a bigger story, and pain is just one chapter. You learn to be still and trust that he's working, even when it hurts. You understand that. He's the potter, and you are the clay, and every season of breaking is followed by shaping. When you put God first, your faith gives your pain meaning. It transforms the way you walk through life. You start to believe that nothing is wasted, not the tears, not the waiting, not the nights you cried yourself to sleep. You start to see that everything you went through was necessary for what's coming next. Every trial prepared your heart. Every loss built your endurance. Every disappointment sharpened your discernment. You start to thank God not just for the blessings, but for the bruises, because the bruises built you. And through it all, you begin to realize that pain isn't your enemy. Pain is often the sign that something inside you is growing. It's the pressure that pushes you to evolve. It's the resistance that reveals your resilience. When you put God first, you stop seeing pain as the end of something and start seeing it as the beginning of something better. You recognize that God is using it to elevate you, to expand you, to equip you. You stop running from it and you start walking through it with purpose, because you know that every step, even the painful ones, are ordered by God. When you put God first, every pain becomes a seed. And just like a seed must break before it grows, you understand that breaking isn't the end, it's the beginning of becoming. God uses pain to plant something in you that will produce greater fruit in your life later on. You may not see it yet, but you trust it. You trust that what you're going through now will one day be the testimony that shows his glory. You trust that what hurt you will eventually help you. You trust that even when it feels like you're losing, you're actually being led towards something greater. That's what it means to live with God first. You stop seeing pain as something to escape and start seeing it as something God can use to take you higher. True fulfillment comes from alignment, not achievement. So many people spend their entire lives chasing goals, titles, money, recognition, or success, thinking that when they reach the next milestone, they will finally feel complete. They work tirelessly to climb the ladder, to gain approval, to prove their worth, only to discover that the higher they climb, the emptier it feels. Achievement alone can never satisfy the deepest part of your soul. It can give you temporary pleasure, a momentary high, but it cannot provide lasting fulfillment. True fulfillment, the kind that fills your heart and gives meaning to your life, comes when your life is aligned with God's purpose and design, when your actions, thoughts, and desires are guided by him rather than by the pursuit of status or material gain. Alignment is about getting your life in sync with God. It's about prioritizing what matters most and letting go of what doesn't. It's about listening to his voice over the noise of the world. When you align your life with God, you stop chasing what looks good on the outside and start pursuing what feels right on the inside. You stop trying to impress people and start living for purpose. You stop seeking temporary satisfaction and start embracing eternal significance. Alignment creates a life where your work, your relationships, and your goals all serve a higher calling, a calling that resonates with the deepest desires of your soul. When people focus solely on achievement, they often lose themselves in the process. They may reach incredible heights, earn accolades, and accumulate wealth, but inside there is a gnawing emptiness. Achievement can become a trap, a never-ending cycle of more, more, more. You achieve one goal, and before you can celebrate, the next goal appears. You reach one level of success, and suddenly it's no longer enough. That's because fulfillment is not found in what you do, but in why you do it. In the alignment of your life with God's purpose, achievement can be fleeting. Alignment is lasting. Alignment gives life, depth, meaning, and a sense of peace that achievement alone can never provide. Alignment requires intentionality. It requires asking yourself hard questions. Am I living for myself or for God? Are my priorities reflecting eternal values or temporary desires? Am I working for approval or for purpose? Am I chasing the world's definition of success or God's? These questions are uncomfortable because they force you to look honestly at where your life is headed. But they are necessary because without them, you risk spending your life achieving things that will never satisfy your soul. When you put God first and align your life with His will, everything else falls into place. Your decisions become clearer, your purpose becomes sharper, and your fulfillment becomes real. Alignment transforms how you view success. Success is no longer measured by what others see or what society says, but by how closely your life reflects God's design for you. It becomes less about outward recognition and more about inward satisfaction. It becomes about living in integrity, loving deeply, serving others, and pursuing the calling that God has placed in your heart. Achievement without alignment can leave you hollow, but alignment turns every action into meaningful progress. Even ordinary tasks gain extraordinary significance when they are done in alignment with God's purpose. When you align your life with God, you experience peace that achievement alone cannot provide. You no longer have to constantly compare yourself to others, constantly worry about the next milestone, constantly chase what is fleeting. Instead, you have confidence that your life has purpose, that your path is directed, that your steps are ordered. You can celebrate small victories because you know they are part of a bigger plan. You can embrace challenges because you trust that every obstacle is shaping you for what's next. You can live with joy because your life is moving in harmony with God's plan. True fulfillment also comes from surrendering control. Alignment is not just about making the right choices or setting the right priorities. It's about trusting God's timing and wisdom. It's about recognizing that you cannot orchestrate every outcome, but you can choose to walk faithfully in obedience. When you put God first, you stop trying to force life to fit your plans. You stop trying to control situations, relationships, and results. Instead, you move forward with faith, knowing that God's purpose is greater than anything you could imagine. That trust brings a peace that achievement alone cannot deliver. Alignment shapes your relationships as well. When your life is aligned with God, you attract people who support your purpose and values. You develop deeper, more meaningful connections because you are living authentically. You stop wasting energy on relationships that drain you or distract you. You invest in those that uplift, inspire, and align with your spiritual journey. Alignment brings clarity, not just in your personal life, but in your social and professional circles as well. People respond to authenticity, and when you are aligned with God, your authenticity shines. Alignment also gives clarity in moments of decision. Life constantly presents choices, and the temptation is to make decisions based on fear, convenience, or external pressures. But when God is first, alignment acts as a compass. Your choices begin to reflect your purpose rather than your impulses. You start saying yes to opportunities that resonate with your calling and no to those that do not. This clarity reduces confusion, anxiety, and regret. You walk with confidence because your steps are guided not by chance, but by divine intention. Achievement is temporary, alignment is eternal. You can achieve every goal in the world and still feel empty if your life is out of alignment with God. But even small accomplishments bring profound satisfaction when they are connected to His purpose. Alignment transforms ordinary actions into extraordinary impact. It gives meaning to your work, your service, your relationships, and your time. It allows you to celebrate progress because you understand that each step is part of a divine journey, not just a personal ambition. When you put God first, your perspective on failure also changes. Alignment helps you see setbacks not as defeats, but as part of God's refining process. Achievement alone makes failure feel catastrophic because your worth is tied to results. Alignment, however, roots your value in God's love and purpose, so failure becomes a teacher, a guide, and a stepping stone. You learn to rise stronger, to trust deeper, and to pursue purpose relentlessly. Alignment cultivates joy that achievement cannot. Joy rooted in God is not dependent on circumstances, recognition, or results. It is steady, resilient, and unshakable. When your life is aligned, you can experience joy in the middle of challenges, peace in the midst of chaos, and gratitude even when things do not go your way. You realize that your true satisfaction comes not from what you have or what you achieve, but from who you are in God and how closely you are walking in His plan. Alignment with God also inspires others. When you live a life of purpose and integrity, it becomes a testimony. People see the difference in your peace, your confidence, and your resilience. Your alignment attracts opportunities, builds influence, and leaves a legacy that achievement alone could never produce. True fulfillment is not just personal, it impacts those around you, creating a ripple effect that extends far beyond your own life. Putting God first allows you to embrace life fully without the fear of missing out or the need for external validation. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. Every decision, every action, every pursuit is filtered through the lens of purpose. Achievement is no longer the goal, alignment is. You move through life with clarity, courage, and confidence because your priorities are ordered, your heart is anchored, and your spirit is in sync with God's design. Alignment transforms your daily life. It shapes how you spend your time, how you use your talents, how you manage your resources. It influences your mindset, your habits, and your responses to challenges. When God is first, your life becomes a reflection of His values and vision. You begin to notice opportunities you might have missed, recognize the significance of small actions, and experience fulfillment in ways that achievement alone could never provide. When true alignment is present, achievement becomes a byproduct, not the pursuit. Success is no longer the main focus. It becomes a natural outcome of living faithfully and intentionally. You achieve not for recognition, but as a reflection of purpose. You accomplish not for approval, but as an expression of divine calling. You reach milestones not to prove yourself, but because you are walking in God's plan. Fulfillment comes when your life resonates with His purpose, not when you tick off another goal on a list. Alignment also frees you from comparison. When you chase achievement alone, it's easy to measure yourself against others, to feel envy, to experience inadequacy. Alignment shifts your focus inward and upward. You compare your life to God's calling for you, not to anyone else. You measure success by obedience, growth, and impact, not by wealth, status, or accolades. This perspective removes pressure, cultivates gratitude, and allows true fulfillment to flourish naturally. When God is first, alignment empowers you to make decisions with clarity, pursue goals with passion, handle setbacks with resilience, build relationships with integrity, and live a life of lasting impact. Achievement alone can never provide this depth of fulfillment because it is external, temporary, and often shallow. Alignment is internal, eternal, and deeply satisfying. It turns ordinary living into extraordinary purpose, mundane actions into meaningful impact, and fleeting moments into lasting joy. Your life becomes a testimony when alignment guides every step. People notice when someone is living intentionally, faithfully, and purposefully. Alignment with God produces a presence, a confidence, a peace that draws others in. It becomes contagious, inspiring those around you to seek the same depth, the same clarity, and the same fulfillment. Achievement can impress people, but alignment transforms lives, leaving a legacy that achievement alone could never accomplish. When you live in alignment, your perspective on life, success, and fulfillment changes completely. You no longer define yourself by what you do or what you have. You define yourself by who God created you to be and how faithfully you are walking in that calling. You embrace challenges as opportunities to grow closer to God, to deepen your faith, and to expand your impact. You celebrate victories as markers of divine favor rather than personal triumph. You handle failure with grace, knowing it is part of the process of shaping you into the person God intended. Alignment is not a one-time choice, it's a daily commitment. It requires vigilance, prayer, reflection, and a willingness to adjust your path continually to remain in step with God's guidance. It means evaluating your priorities, letting go of distractions, and making choices that honor Him first. It means understanding that fulfillment is a journey, not a destination, and that true success comes from living a life that is connected, purposeful, and aligned with God's plan. When achievement and alignment coexist, life becomes balanced, purposeful, and deeply satisfying. But without alignment, achievement is hollow. Without God first, even the greatest success cannot fill the void within. True fulfillment comes from alignment, when your heart, your mind, and your actions are all centered on God's purpose for your life. When alignment is your compass, everything else falls into place naturally, powerfully, and meaningfully. Fulfillment is not earned by doing more, it is discovered by aligning with God. It is cultivated by listening, trusting, and walking in obedience. It grows as your priorities reflect His vision, your actions reflect His love, and your life reflects His purpose. Achievement can bring recognition, but alignment brings peace, joy, and lasting satisfaction. When God is first and your life is aligned with Him, achievement becomes the natural overflow of purpose, not the pursuit of meaning. Surrendering daily invites divine strength and direction. Every day presents challenges, decisions, and uncertainties that can overwhelm even the strongest among us. Life is unpredictable, full of twists, setbacks, and pressures that can make us feel inadequate, anxious, or unprepared. We often think we can navigate these challenges on our own, relying on our intelligence, skills, and experience. But the truth is, no matter how capable we are, we all reach limits. There comes a point when our strength is not enough, when our wisdom fails, when our understanding falls short. That is precisely why daily surrender is so crucial. It is in surrendering that we invite divine strength into our weaknesses and divine direction into our confusion. Surrender is not a one-time event. It is a daily choice. It is waking up each morning and saying, God, I give this day to you. I trust you with my plans, my decisions, and my heart. It is acknowledging that we do not have all the answers and that we cannot control everything. Surrender is an act of humility, recognizing that our power is limited, but God's power is limitless. It is in this daily act that we stop trying to force outcomes, stop relying solely on our own understanding, and open ourselves to guidance, wisdom, and strength that comes only from Him. When we surrender daily, we invite God's presence into the ordinary and the extraordinary moments of life. We move from making decisions out of fear, anxiety, or impatience to making decisions guided by faith. We gain clarity in times of confusion and courage in times of fear. Surrendering daily doesn't mean we stop taking action. It means we act with God's guidance, aligning our steps with His will. It transforms the way we approach challenges because we are no longer relying on human strength alone. We begin to operate from a place of divine empowerment, knowing that God is leading, protecting, and equipping us for every task. Daily surrender also transforms our mindset. Without surrender, we carry the weight of worry, stress, and doubt. We try to control outcomes that are beyond our ability to control. We exhaust ourselves chasing solutions that may not be the right fit for our purpose. But when we surrender, we shift from a mindset of self-reliance to one of trust. We acknowledge that God is the ultimate problem solver, the ultimate strategist, and the ultimate source of strength. This shift frees our minds, calms our hearts, and allows us to operate with focus, clarity, and peace. We stop being anxious about tomorrow because we trust that God is already there, preparing the way and guiding our steps. Surrendering daily requires letting go of pride and embracing humility. Pride often convinces us that we know best, that we can do it on our own, that asking for help is a weakness. But surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is recognizing that life is bigger than our own understanding and that God's plan is far greater than our own ambitions. When we surrender, we align ourselves with His wisdom instead of our limited perspective. We open ourselves to solutions we could not have imagined and strength that we could not have mustered on our own. Humility allows us to receive what God has for us, and surrendering daily is the practice that cultivates that humility. Daily surrender brings direction in every area of life. Decisions about relationships, career, finances, health, and personal growth can feel overwhelming when we rely solely on our own understanding. But when we surrender each day, we invite God's guidance into every choice. We begin to recognize His voice, follow His leading, and trust His timing. We learn to wait patiently when He delays and to act boldly. When he signals, this divine direction prevents us from making costly mistakes, ensures that our steps are purposeful, and positions us to maximize the opportunities he provides. It turns uncertainty into clarity and chaos into order. Surrender also strengthens us spiritually and emotionally. Life's pressures often push us to our limits, testing our patience, resilience, and faith. Without surrender, we try to face these challenges alone, often becoming frustrated, discouraged, or defeated. But daily surrender allows us to tap into a well of strength beyond our own. We discover endurance in moments when we thought we had none. We experience courage in situations that feel impossible. We find peace in the midst of storms. That strength is not manufactured by human effort. It is poured into us by God when we release control and trust him completely. Surrendering daily creates a rhythm of dependence on God. Dependence is not weakness, it is recognition of his sufficiency. When we rely on him each day, we learn that we are not alone in life's battles. His strength becomes our strength, his wisdom becomes our wisdom, and his presence becomes our constant companion. We stop striving in our own energy and start moving in alignment with his purpose. Dependence deepens faith, cultivates trust, and strengthens the character needed to handle life's complexities. Surrender also brings peace in uncertainty. The human mind naturally resists what it cannot control, generating stress, anxiety, and fear. But daily surrender shifts our perspective. We begin to see challenges not as obstacles to overcome alone, but as opportunities to trust God's plan. We release the illusion of control and embrace the reality of divine orchestration. That shift transforms our emotional state, allowing us to face difficulties with calm confidence rather than frantic worry. Peace replaces panic, patience replaces pressure, and trust replaces tension. Daily surrender requires consistency and intentionality. It is not enough to surrender once in a moment of crisis. True strength and direction come from a sustained, deliberate practice of giving God control every day. This consistent surrender trains our spirit, reshapes our habits, and develops resilience. We start to respond to challenges with faith rather than fear, to approach decisions with clarity rather than confusion, and to live with a sense of purpose rather than aimless striving. The more consistently we surrender, the more naturally we walk in divine strength and direction. Surrendering daily also cultivates gratitude. When we release control and trust God, we begin to recognize his hand in every aspect of our lives. We see blessings in places we once overlooked. We see opportunities in situations we once feared. We appreciate relationships, resources, and moments with deeper awareness. Gratitude grows because surrender shifts our focus from what we lack to what God provides. It reminds us that life is not about controlling outcomes, but about trusting the one who controls all things. Surrender transforms how we handle setbacks and disappointments. Life is unpredictable and challenges are inevitable. Without surrender, setbacks can lead to despair, frustration, and resentment. But daily surrender allows us to see setbacks through the lens of divine purpose. We start to understand that obstacles are not necessarily blockages, but redirections. Delays are not denials, but opportunities to prepare us for something greater. Surrender enables us to respond to adversity with faith, turning potential defeat into growth, learning, and preparation for future victories. When we surrender daily, we also cultivate resilience. Life will test us, push us, and demand more than we think we can give. Without surrender, we may falter under pressure, giving in to fear, doubt, or exhaustion. With surrender, we tap into divine strength that sustains us through every trial. We learn to recover quickly from setbacks, to maintain focus under pressure, and to keep moving forward with confidence. Resilience is not built through human effort alone. It is strengthened through daily dependence on God. Surrendering daily aligns our will with God's will. Too often, we resist guidance because it doesn't match our own desires or timelines. But surrender requires us to submit our plans, ambitions, and expectations to his wisdom. It teaches patience, trust, and obedience. It allows God to shape our desires, refine our intentions, and direct our steps in ways that bring lasting fulfillment. Alignment with God's will ensures that our actions, decisions, and efforts are not wasted but contribute to a purpose far greater than ourselves. Surrender invites protection. Life is filled with challenges we cannot predict or control. Daily surrender places us under God's guidance and care. When we trust Him with our decisions, He protects us from unnecessary mistakes, guards our hearts against discouragement, and shields our path from harm. His direction acts as a safeguard, helping us navigate complexity with discernment and confidence. Daily surrender strengthens faith. Faith grows when we consistently trust God with our lives. Each act of surrender becomes an opportunity to experience His faithfulness firsthand. We see doors open that we could not have opened on our own. We experience guidance in moments of uncertainty. We feel strength in moments of weakness. Faith is reinforced each time we release control and witness God's hand at work in our lives. Surrendering daily creates a life of purpose and fulfillment. We stop living reactively, driven by fear, anxiety, or selfish ambition. Instead, we live intentionally, guided by divine wisdom, empowered by divine strength, and aligned with divine purpose. Our actions gain significance, our decisions gain clarity, and our journey gains direction. Daily surrender transforms ordinary life into extraordinary living because we are no longer navigating alone, but walking hand in hand with the Creator who knows the path, the obstacles, and the victories that lie ahead. When surrender becomes a habit, it shapes our identity. We begin to see ourselves not as isolated individuals struggling through life, but as co-laborers with God. We discover that our value is not measured by human standards, but by our obedience, faith, and willingness to trust Him. We embrace humility, wisdom, and strength, recognizing that daily surrender is not a limitation, but a source of empowerment. Daily surrender also cultivates patience. Life does not always move at our pace, and waiting can be one of the most challenging aspects of faith. But surrender teaches us to trust God's timing, to remain steady when outcomes are delayed, and to act with discernment rather than haste. Patience nurtured through surrender brings maturity, perspective, and confidence, allowing us to handle life's twists and turns with grace and composure. Surrendering daily ensures that our journey is guided by purpose rather than chance. Each step we take becomes intentional, informed, and aligned with divine wisdom. We avoid unnecessary detours, wasted effort, and costly mistakes. Our energy is focused, our actions are empowered, and our decisions are clear. Through surrender, we live strategically, not reactively, and every day becomes an opportunity to grow, advance, and walk faithfully in the path God has prepared for us. Daily surrender cultivates peace that surpasses understanding. Life will always have storms, challenges, and uncertainties, but surrender allows us to navigate them without being overwhelmed. We experience calm in chaos, strength in weakness, and clarity in confusion. Our hearts remain anchored, our minds remain focused, and our spirits remain unshaken because we have invited the divine presence into every aspect of our lives. When we surrender daily, we invite God not just to guide us, but to transform us. Our priorities, desires, and perspectives shift. We begin to value what truly matters, release what does not, and pursue what aligns with God's purpose. Daily surrender molds our character, strengthens our faith, and positions us to live a life of impact, influence, and fulfillment. Surrendering daily is the foundation for divine strength and direction. It is the key to navigating challenges, making wise decisions, building resilience, and experiencing peace. It empowers us to live intentionally, aligned with God's purpose, and confident in His guidance. Each day we surrender. We step into a life that is not dependent on our limited understanding, but powered by divine wisdom, fortified by divine strength, and directed by divine purpose. When you put God first, blessings begin to chase you. This is not just a phrase, it is a principle that transforms the way life unfolds. Many people spend their lives chasing success, wealth, recognition, or opportunities, believing that if they work hard enough, push long enough, or fight aggressively enough, the rewards will come. Yet, for many, despite all effort and planning, the results never match the energy invested. There is always a gap, a sense that something is missing, a frustration that hard work alone cannot fill. The truth is, blessings do not always come from struggle or striving. They come from alignment, from putting God first, from letting him take the lead in your life. When God is first, your priorities shift. You start to focus not on what you want, but on what he wants. You start to consider his guidance, his timing, and his purpose in every decision you make. Life becomes less about scrambling for outcomes and more about walking faithfully in obedience. When you prioritize God, you position yourself to receive blessings in ways you could never engineer on your own. Opportunities begin to align, doors open, and people appear in your path that bring the resources, wisdom, and connections you need. The pursuit of blessings is replaced with the presence of blessings. They begin to chase you instead of you chasing them. Putting God first is about trust and obedience. It is acknowledging that your understanding is limited, that your plans are partial, and that God's wisdom is infinite. When you walk in obedience, even in the small things, you demonstrate faith that invites larger blessings. Obedience opens channels that effort alone cannot reach. God's favor often works in the unseen dimensions of life situations, relationships, timing, and alignment that human effort cannot control. When he is first, he begins to orchestrate circumstances in your favor. The seemingly random pieces of life start to fit together perfectly. Blessings follow those who honor God with their hearts, their actions, and their resources. When you give God priority in your time, in your decisions, in your finances, and in your relationships, you create a life that reflects his principles. Integrity, generosity, humility, and faithfulness become magnets for favor. People are drawn to your character, doors open to your efforts, and even challenges begin to serve your growth. The law of divine reciprocity works when God is first. As you honor him, he orchestrates favor, guidance, and opportunity in return. These are blessings that cannot be earned by striving alone. They are released when alignment with God precedes ambition. When you put God first, timing becomes your ally instead of your enemy. Many people miss blessings because they are impatient, trying to force outcomes according to their own schedule. But God's timing is perfect. Surrendering to it allows blessings to arrive fully formed, without compromise, and at the exact moment they are most effective. Waiting is not wasted, it is preparation. It allows God to position resources, people, and circumstances in ways that you could not orchestrate. By putting God first, you trust the process, remain patient, and discover that his timing always surpasses your own expectations. Putting God first also transforms your perspective on success and abundance. Many chase wealth, recognition, or influence without understanding the deeper source of lasting fulfillment. God-first living aligns your vision with eternal principles. You begin to see success not merely as accumulation, but as impact. You measure wealth not only in material terms, but in the depth of relationships, the quality of character, and the extent of influence in God's purpose. As you prioritize him, blessings begin to appear in both expected and unexpected forms, sometimes financial, sometimes relational, sometimes spiritual, and sometimes opportunities that expand your capacity to grow and serve. When God is first, your faith is activated in ways that attract blessings. Faith is not passive. It positions you to receive. It opens your heart to see opportunities that were invisible before. It inspires you to act in alignment with God's will, even when the path is unclear. Faith moves mountains, shifts perspectives, and draws resources that would otherwise remain distant. People who live by faith do not simply wait for blessings. They partner with God, stepping into the flow of his provision. When he is first, your faith becomes a magnet that draws blessings toward you naturally. Putting God first cultivates a life of abundance because it removes fear from your decisions. Fear often blocks blessings. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of judgment can prevent you from stepping into the opportunities God has prepared. But when God leads, fear loses its power. Confidence, clarity, and courage take its place. You start to act boldly, take steps of faith, and pursue opportunities that align with divine guidance. Blessings follow action when it is rooted in obedience to God. The momentum of faith and alignment invites favor into your life that effort alone cannot produce. When God is first, your relationships become channels for blessing as well. Favor often flows through people, connections, and networks that God strategically places around you. Prioritizing Him ensures that you interact with the right people at the right time. Your character, guided by God, attracts mentors, allies, and collaborators who amplify your impact. When God is first, doors that seem impossible to open are unlocked, not by manipulation or force, but by divine orchestration. People begin to support your vision because they sense authenticity, integrity, and purpose. Blessings are also tied to gratitude and stewardship. When God is first, recognizing His provision cultivates a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. You begin to manage resources, time, and relationships responsibly because you understand that everything belongs to God and is entrusted to you for a purpose. Generosity and wise stewardship create cycles of favor. God blesses the faithful and multiplies what is invested with intentionality and heart. By prioritizing Him, you place yourself in alignment with this principle, and blessings flow naturally in return. Putting God first helps you navigate challenges without losing momentum. Life is filled with trials, setbacks, and obstacles that can derail even the most determined efforts. Yet, when God is first, challenges become opportunities for growth and platforms for favor. You begin to see trials as preparation rather than punishment, as alignment rather than accident. Your response to difficulty becomes a reflection of trust, and in that trust, doors open, guidance appears, and blessings manifest. Struggle becomes a pathway, not a barrier, when God leads the journey. Prioritizing God also strengthens resilience, which attracts blessings in return. When you face setbacks with faith and perseverance, your character is built, your reputation is established, and your readiness for greater opportunities is developed. Blessings often require preparation and resilience forged. Through obedience, trust, and alignment ensures that you are ready when they arrive. Putting God first transforms adversity into a proving ground, ensuring that the blessings you receive are sustained and effective. When God is first, you experience peace that draws further blessings. Anxiety, worry, and stress can cloud judgment and obscure opportunities, but living with God as your priority provides clarity and calm. Peace becomes a beacon that attracts the right circumstances and people. Others are drawn to the steadiness of your faith, to your capacity for wisdom, and to your alignment with divine purpose. The life that radiates peace, trust, and obedience naturally attracts resources, opportunities, and relationships that constitute blessings. Putting God first allows you to receive blessings without manipulation or struggle. Often, people attempt to force outcomes, negotiate favor, or overexert themselves to create results. These efforts can produce short-term gains, but rarely align with lasting purpose. Divine blessings, on the other hand, flow when alignment, obedience, and trust precede effort. By placing God first, you position yourself to receive what is intended for you without unnecessary stress, forcing, or compromise. The flow of blessings becomes natural, sustainable, and transformative. Blessings also come as insight, guidance, and inspiration when God leads. Opportunities are not only external, but internal. Wisdom, creativity, discernment, and clarity often arrive in the moments when God is first. Decisions become easier, choices more obvious, and the right paths illuminated. These blessings of insight enable you to act decisively and strategically, multiplying the impact of your actions. When God is first, you are never navigating blindly. You are led by divine clarity and understanding. Putting God first enhances both timing and alignment. You discover that doors open at the right moment, that resources are available when needed, and that support appears precisely when it can make the greatest difference. Blessings manifest because your actions are aligned with divine will, your faith is active, and your steps are purposeful. Timing that once seemed like coincidence is revealed as intentional orchestration. Opportunities that once seemed inaccessible now become attainable because you are positioned through obedience and prioritization. When God is first, blessings follow in every dimension of life: personal, professional, relational, spiritual, and financial. His favor becomes evident in ways you may not have planned or anticipated. He aligns situations, people, and opportunities to support your growth and advancement. He strengthens you to handle more than you could on your own. He directs your steps so that effort produces maximum impact. And most importantly, he ensures that the blessings are sustainable, guided by purpose, and equipped for lasting influence. Blessings begin to chase you because putting God first creates a life of preparation, alignment, and faith. Your character, your actions, your decisions, and your attitude all attract favor when they are rooted in divine priorities. The energy you invest, the integrity you maintain, and the trust you exhibit draw blessings naturally, effortlessly, and powerfully. God-first living does not mean life is without effort, but it ensures that effort is amplified by divine orchestration, making results inevitable and aligned with His will. Putting God first transforms your identity, your purpose, and your trajectory. Blessings follow not just in material ways, but in spiritual and relational dimensions as well. When God leads, He multiplies resources, enhances opportunities, and positions you strategically. Favor is activated, doors open, and people are placed around you who catalyze growth. Blessings chase those whose hearts, priorities, and actions are aligned with God's purpose, creating a life of impact, fulfillment, and abundant provision.